Culture is the identity of an organization,
Yeah.
right? Something which is like your compass and that helps you navigate, especially at times of crisis or ambiguity or uncertainty, or when you're not clear about what's the right thing to do, you almost default back to what's your value statement, what's your culture.
People are constantly, behind you to exhibit those values or that behavior, but it's just what has gotten so beautifully soaked into the environment that when time comes, that behavior just manifests itself.
Welcome to Culture Café, a vibrant and inspiring podcast series brought to you by the Confederation of Indian Industry and Avtar, celebrating 25 years of shaping inclusive workplaces. In this milestone year, we bring you 25 transformative conversations with leaders who are redefining workplace culture. From boardroom wins to human moments that changed everything, these conversations are your backstage pass to how organizations thrive, one connection at a time. In today's episode, we're joined by Rashmi Nair, Senior Director and Head of HR at Lumen Technologies India. With over 2 decades of rich cross-cultural experience, Rashmi shares a powerful framework on inclusion, ideas, inclusion, diversity, equity, allyship, and social impact. This is Culture Café, where culture isn't just talked about, it's lived.
Rashmi is a human resources leader with over 2 decades of experience across several global organizations, and she has truly learned what it means to work in a multicultural environment. She is currently Senior Director and Head of HR at Lumen Technologies Limited in Bangalore, Karnataka. And in this role, she is responsible for shaping and executing HR strategy for Lumen and fostering a very value driven organizational culture, which results in nurturing talent for Lumen's operations across India. Rashmi, a very warm welcome to Avatar Studios to you, and very, very thrilled and delighted to have you here with us.
Thank you, Dr. Soundarya. I am honored and privileged to be here today, and I look forward to sharing anything around this particular topic that can help the industry at large. Thank you
Thank
for
you, Rashmi. Thank you. Truly appreciate that because I think it's in these conversations and these exchanges of ideas that all of us learn, all of us benefit. And today, culture, this amazing organizational glue that holds us all together, has taken on a far more powerful role than before. And who better than you, who has put together a wonderful framework called the Ideas Framework, which is a very interesting take on diversity, equity, and inclusion because it not just, kind of puts it in order by calling it inclusion, diversity, equity, allyship, and social impact, which is the acronym that is created with ideas. And, this particular aspect of culture where you bring in all things diverse, you make sure that that diversity works, you make sure that you have very different perspectives that really pull it all together. How did you come about this concept, and what does it really mean to you, Rashmi?
Before we get into the ideas or any of the specifics around initiatives, one of the things that I do want to do is spend a minute about culture in general as a topic, right? And it goes back to the early days where I've read the famous statement of culture eats strategy for breakfast by Peter Drucker, to also reading about the Business Sutra by David Patnaik, where he talks about belief, behavior, and business, right? And there's a very interesting concept that unless your beliefs and behaviors are in sync, the business outcomes does not really come through. Um, Over the last 23 years, Dr. Soundarya, one of the things that I have realized is culture is the identity of an organization, right? Something which is like your compass and that helps you navigate, especially at times of crisis or ambiguity or uncertainty, or when you're not clear about what's the right thing to do, you almost default back to what's your value statement, what's your culture. And that has really come about creating frameworks, whether it is ideas, whether it's about the fair around your pay equity. You pay for the role, not for the gender, right? Whether it is about hiring, you hire for the skills and not the gender. Or whether it's about how each of your action eventually trickles down to the society at large and creates this ripple effect in the society. All of that is basically the values and the ideas that I have sort of seen play out in my 23 years career in the corporate world, and something that has then culminated into sort of championing the ideas framework in India. So I hope that gives you a sense of where I'm headed with this
You know
particular.
what I loved about what you just said? You said, when in doubt,
Yeah,
check your culture.
correct.
When in doubt, go back to your culture. When in doubt, see what cultural moorings and values your organization is reflecting. And I think that's a very, very powerful statement, Rashmi. Um, you know, leadership is among the most important aspects where culture is evident. We often talk about lighthouse leadership. We talk about the leader embodying the culture of the organization. In some ways, the culture possibly derives its strength from leadership and vice versa, right? Now, I just want you to share an experience where you have seen leadership vision, the vision of your leader actually shape the organization, shape the way, your company has dealt with a change or shape the way, the way you work. So could you share, an experience or an anecdote in this regard?
Absolutely. I've been, as Luck would call it, been in situations, or like people would call it, I've been very lucky to be in situations where I've seen a lot of culture transformation. I joined Reuters, we got acquired by Thomson,
Yeah.
mergers and acquisitions, huge culture transformation. I joined Life Technologies, acquired by Thermo Fisher, huge changes, right? I joined Lumen, and Lumen's a great example, and not just because of recency, but I think this deserves to be called out. It's a great example of how a leader transformed the culture of an organization. So, a couple of years back, we were at a rough spot, right? Our revenues were sliding, we had our debts mounting, we had quite a few leadership changes. Now, when all of that turmoil is happening, you really need to fall back, like I was saying in the initial part of the conversation, to the cultures of the company to pull you through the rough weather, right? So when our CEO, Kate Johnson, joined the organization, the first thing she said is, we're going to transform this company starting with people, right? We're going to focus on people. We're going to do an inside out transformation. Our entire focus is going to be how do we culturally lift this organization up. Let me give you some examples of what she meant. She meant we're not going to play for the defense. We're going to play to win it, right? And how we're going to win it? We're going to rely on our illuminate behaviors. So teamwork, trust, transparency became our operating principles. And it was simple piece like when you say teamwork, it's a no single hero culture. When you talk about, trust or transparency, if you make a mistake, you should feel empowered to own it up, to learn from it. You're not going to be punished for it, but you earn, your stripes that, okay, I made a mistake. I'm going to own it up. I'm going to build that trust. I'm going to get back and bounce back, right? So these are some cornerstones, whether it's clarity, whether it's courage, whether it is growth mindset, customer obsession, and most important aspect, respect. These cornerstones were really baked into the organization. So we are able to transform and we're able to take a sinking ship out to the North Star that we're chasing, right? So I think Lumen's a great example of how when you focus on people, when you focus on the right value statements, when you focus on culture, you are able to take the company through a massive transformation, where people might write you off and then you come back and do one of the biggest deals possible in the market, right? So that's the transformation that we're talking about. And I guess that's a great example.
Fantastic. Very beautifully articulated. They say culture is what's happening when nobody is watching.
Yes.
They say that, it doesn't need to be something that people are constantly behind you to exhibit those values or that behavior, but it's just what has gotten so beautifully soaked into the environment that when time comes, that behavior just manifests itself.
True.
And that's what my next question is going to be. During the COVID crisis,
Yep.
many of us actually realized what our organization's culture was. We
Correct.
probably felt it for the first time. We experienced, leaders really being magnanimous, kind, compassionate. They really, showed what the organization's deep down culture is all about. Now,
Correct.
I want you to share, some crisis, some kind of a critical event during the organization's growth,
True.
whichever culture, whichever company that you wish to speak about. And how did the team respond? See, we
Yeah.
spoke about your leader responding in the previous question,
True.
but when we talk about culture and its impact, that has to translate right down to the first newest entrant into your organization. So during such a crisis, how did the team respond? What was
Yes.
your experience?
It's very interesting that you spoke about COVID. So when COVID hit in 2020, I was working for Thermo Fisher Scientific, and that's a science organization. I was the HR leader for life sciences group in India. The life sciences group primarily was also the biggest supplier for your qPCR and test kits and everything during the COVID time.
Wow.
So when the whole country and the whole world went into a lockdown, I had sales and services engineers who were asked to go to NIV, the National Institute of Virology in Pune, and train the lab assistants on how to test for COVID. Now, you need to understand that these are not doctors, they're not army professionals, they're not government workers, they're not first responders, they're not trained to deal with a national crisis, let alone a world pandemic, right? Now, what got all of these people out when their families were cordoned out, and there was, including me, because I had to go to work as well. There's a huge pressure from your family that, hey, you cannot step out of house because people are dying. This is a life-threatening event. But what got all of my sales and services folks out there was because Thermo Fisher always was a purpose driven organization. It had a mission ingrained in all our psyche. Like I left the company 5 years back. I can still tell you the purpose was to enable our customers make the world healthier, cleaner, safer. Yeah, I think that was the tagline. We had an EAP, which was, EVP, which was, what's your story? So if I am working at Thermo Fisher, how am I impacting the society? So every one of us had our stories of how we are. So it was a very purpose-driven, impact-oriented organization. So a situation that could have turned into an HR nightmare of convincing people to step out and help was a breeze. In a sense, I did not have to urge, beg, plead our employees to go out there and help. It had nothing to do with sales quota and revenue. It had everything to do with, okay, this is my job. This is the mission I signed up for. This is the culture of the organization. We will do what it takes. Right. So I think it's very interesting you spoke about COVID because that was, I guess, the biggest crisis, not a mergers and
Sure.
acquisition, not turning around your revenues, but this was truly a situation which was life threatening. And my staff stood up to the challenge. And I guess culture had like a huge, I
That's amazing.
got a few stickers in my car. I got COVID in the first wave, a lot of us did. The pride we had about associating with Thermo Fisher Scientific, I think, is unparalleled. Unparalleled.
Very, very heartwarming. And I think you really absolutely hit the nail on the head when you chose that particular example or that particular reference, Rashmi. Thank you. Thank you so much for it. Let's talk about technology. Now, we all know that today the attention span of not just Gen Zs and millennials, because we are very, very fond of making them the target of our complaint, but it's all of us. We all have now become the Instagram generation. We all are used to 30-second shots, which can, fill your mind with the dopamine. So, from that perspective, when you talk about culture, do you think technology has helped it? Has it hindered it? What is your take on culture and tech?
Honestly, the fact that you and I might be in two different states and we are able to seamlessly communicate is thanks to Zoom, right? So pre-COVID, it was 5 days of work from office. Now, I'll tell you this much. I personally do feel that the in-person meeting is important. I do believe that once in a while you need to meet the person and just feel the vibes of that individual. It does something to the culture, right? Having said that, world is going through crazy amount of stuff, whether it is a pandemic, whether it is a war, or any of those situations. Having technology that still allows you to connect with another person, see their body language, see if you're able to make that connection is critical because culture is all about people coming together as a group. It's not individualistic. It's a group belief that kind of drives it. So tools like Microsoft Teams or Zoom or Slack, it has never been more important in our journey. So I rely very, very heavily on that. I rely extremely heavily on that,
And
right?
does it help culture? Does it help the enhance the cultural experience of your organization? Would you
A
say
hundred
that?
100%, Dr. Soundarya. I think very simple facts, right? Like when Kate came on board, Kate's our CEO, she said, I want to launch the Dare to Lead book club, right? And she wanted to ensure that people regionally are connecting with each other in book clubs. So we formed small, small groups of 10 or 15 people, and you're in a video, you're in a breakout session, and you're discussing things. I believe when you discuss those examples in a group setting, it actually enables you to exchange ideas, think through, and all of it. So when the world is kind of getting constricted, when boundaries are going up, um, this is what I'd fall back on to collaborate, to communicate, to share, to see, and to exchange. So I believe tech is a very integral part of feeling like you belong to a group, feeling like you belong to a team, right? We're also leveraging a lot of technology to do, for example, training sessions. Now, your training sessions previously was in a classroom, you would do mock sessions. Now you have AI based platforms where
Mhm.
if I'm trying to train myself on how to do a difficult conversation, I have an AI bot in front of me. I keep talking to that individual and practice my skills as a leader. So there are various tools that enables you to train people in the comfort of their homes. These tools also help me to collaborate, whether it's GitLab or Copilot. All of these pieces gives you a collaborative platform to learn, to grow, and upskill. So 100%. And honestly, you've got to keep in tune with the changing times. This is the new paradigm. And you need to look at the opportunities of this paradigm than the limitations. So there's something you kind of look at the glass half full and say, okay, this gives me an additional platform to
Yeah.
we can collaborate, go all in and leverage, right? So that's my take on tech.
Fabulous. Fantastic. We are on our 25th year right now. So, a lot of thoughts on my mind have to do with people who are long tenured and what they have contributed to making this organization, Avatar, what it is today. And I'm sure in every organization that you have been part of and where you have led and shaped HR and shaped culture, I'm sure there are a lot of people who embody the culture of the organization. And it may not be in a way that we, you know, talk about folks who come, have learned and been part of it. There's that tribal knowledge that's there with some people who are long tenured. So, any such folks that you'd like to talk about or any such experience from your side, Rashmi?
Honestly, instead of talking about folks, I can't take names, but I love the word you use, the tribal, knowledge. I call it institutional,
I know, yes, yes, yes.
we kind of call them the history bank and the encyclopedias. So Google, for example, is a great example to the long tenured. Most of my senior managers, on an average, if you look at it, have clocked in about 10 years. And like I said, they are the ones who keep the institutional knowledge with them. And you need to dip into that. Thermo Fisher, for example, had a lot of long tenured individuals in the organization. So when Thermo acquired life sciences or life technologies, you need to rely on those institutional knowledge on both sides of the way to ensure that you're able to create then an organization that's successful. It's one of the companies that did a big acquisition and was successful, because mergers and acquisition mostly failed in a lot of, and especially that large merger and acquisition, but it worked. It worked because we leveraged our tenured employees as powerful allies
Wow.
and not as guardians of some old regime, right? They were the powerful allies who would come and tell us in history in the past, these are the 10 things that did not work. And if this is the future we're going to, we may want to do it this way. And when people who are in the system for a long time, when they become the voice of the culture and the
Yeah.
transformation, you do not need a better brand ambassador. And that's worked beautifully, not just there, even here. So today, when Kate is trying to do a change, we do leverage some of our tenured employees as the institutional history banker. They've kind of lived the past, they're living the present, they're anticipating the future. So they're our allies to make things happen across.
Beautiful. Excellent. That was so, not just warm, but also very practical. And the fact that you chose a merger and acquisition example to drive home the fact that, this repository of knowledge which is there within people, especially long tenure, and, tapping into that is going to be one of the ways in which we really are able to hasten, speeden things up, speeden that merger, speeden the coming together of the cultures. Fabulous. Thank you.
And Dr. Soundarya, if I may
Yeah.
just add, right, a lot of long tenured people also come with very deep relationships, right? And at a time of change, you need to lean in on relationships to make things happen, to spread the word. And sales was a very classic example when you have to look at a price point, when you're looking at, how do you crack a market or a new product initiative, you need to bank in on your relationships and engagements to make something happen, to
Hmm.
drive point. And I believe that's where your tenured employees can play a big, powerful allyship role.
I also feel tenured. I was, in fact, thinking this when you were speaking. I also feel tenured employees contribute to a sense of psychological safety, right?
Yeah,
Because they've been around, they've seen this company go through ups and downs.
correct.
And when a new cohort joins, they know that, this is the way it is. And, there's that comfort in someone who's actually been there, done that.
And culture again plays a huge role there, Dr. Sandhya. Like, for instance, the tenured people shouldn't be threatened by the new cohorts, and the new cohorts shouldn't feel that they're battling a coterie. So the culture is what would stitch the two segments together. And that is the reason why it's so important to have very deep value statements within the organization that guide how people operate.
Very well said. Very well said. Some informal or quirky or funny rituals that you have, at your place, which has created, the company to be what it is.
Okay, I'm not sure about the company, but I'll talk about maybe the smaller team in within India. So I'm a bookworm. I mean, you can see the library behind, and it's flipping pages, not Kindle, right? I'm a book addict, so to speak. I love reading books. And then Kate came and launched Dare to Lead book clubs. So I should latch to it because you really, it's a beautiful concept of, okay, let's read a chapter and then five of us will get together and then debrief and reflect on what that chapter told you. It's a
Wow.
very good way of learning. So we have now taken it one step forward. We have these little informal groups and chai conversations where you pick up a chapter, pick up an article, and then you just sort of debate it and reflect on it. And we have named that as Manthan. Manthan is a Sanskrit word for, like you just, with the Manthan, the Amrit comes out, right? So you debate out a particular topic, you Manthan over that whole piece, and it also helps us put some thought leadership in place. So I started a monthly ritual with my team called as Manthan, which is based on books and learning.
Fantastic. Fantastic. And I just love the Sagar Manthan example that you kind of, took, and the fact that the Amrit is the result.
Correct.
Maybe a little bit of hal poison also may come. But then, it's in the hands of leaders like us, like you, to make sure that the Amrit is what gets channeled. That's fantastic. Fabulous. So we are here at our last question for this podcast, and this has been such an incredible exchange and such frank and warm sharing by Rashmi, who's with me here today. And this last question to you, Rashmi, is this. We often say that culture, the efficacy of culture, has to be determined by the kind of profits, the kind of, innovation or new product development or, very, very clear cut commercial outcomes that emerge from a very strong, robust culture. But sometimes culture is also about empowering that one individual. Maybe it's about helping somebody really reach their zenith professionally, someone who probably didn't even think they would do that. So, any such examples from your side, Rashmi?
I'll give you one example specific to an individual, and if time permits, a generic one as well. So, let me talk about this person who reported into me, Dr. Soundarya, and high performer, top talent, did extremely well. Reported to me for about 7 months before her maternity started. Now, she was due for a promotion effective 1st of April. Her maternity was to start on, I think, first week of May. India has a 6 months maternity. She had her leaves planned. She wanted to take 2 months over. So her return was planned in January of next year. Now, there were questions, of course, in the calibration. Hey, we don't even know if she's going to come back to work. Usually the return rate is low. You're going to give her a promotion and pay her the increased salary for 8 months. What should we do? Should we wait? Let her come back. It's just a matter of 1 month, right? Like April to May is just exactly 1 month. Let her take the maternity, come back, and then we will look at her promotion. And that's when we leaned back into our culture and values. What's the right thing to do? The right thing was to promote her at that point in time. If somebody else at the same grade was getting promoted for what they deserved, she also deserved to get promoted. We promoted her. Now, she came back in January. So obviously there was this big question, will she come back after 8 months? Will she come back after 8 months? And she did come back in January. 3 years in a row, she continued to be a top performer. Like her commitment to the organization. And I remember she had tears in her eyes and she said, I do not know of many organizations who would do this. So I am just eternally loyal to you of sorts. And she just belted it out of the park. She contributes. She's the best team worker. She would not help anyone for credit. She would help them selflessly. That example was also noted by a lot of other women colleagues. For the last 3 years, I have 100% maternity return of 100%.
Oh my
in the
God.
organization. So I think again, it goes back to does it have an ROI? I believe it has an ROI, not only from that perspective, but from the organization perspective, right? And that led to a lot of cascading pieces like pay equity. When I joined, it was -18. Today, we have a range between -1 to +1. How we achieved it is not by artificially inflating women's salary. We decided we will pay for the role, not for the gender, not for their past salary, right? So you change the compensation philosophy to pay them for the role and how they perform in an interview process and stick to the ranges that's been decided. So sometimes it's -1, sometimes it's +1. So it shifts, but it's in a range that's acceptable, right? So a lot of those things came through because of the way you think about it. Not everything is just about the sales and the revenues and numbers.
Exactly.
About people.
Exactly. I'm reminded of this thing. Not everyone who wanders is lost.
Correct.
So, J.R.R. Tolkien's famous quote. And when I was hearing you speak, I was just reminded of the huge percentage of Indian women, 48%, who take a career break under the age of 30 simply because this kind of empowerment, enablement, enhancement, probably they weren't privileged enough to receive it. On that note, Rashmi, let me say what an absolute pleasure it has been to have you with us for this Culture Cafe podcast. And here's hoping to all of you, our dear viewers, that you found this conversation as riveting, as filled with insights. And I'm sure you're going to be thinking about a lot of what Rashmi said long after you've stopped, you've finished watching this episode. Thank you, Rashmi, and it was wonderful chatting with you.